I'm a huge Buckeye fan. If you have a nice jersey, I can help you recruit.
Please get these ladies paid.
We're going to do what we want, and you're going to have no choice but to respect it. So basically, the NCAA was saying you can't benefit off of your athletic reputation, but we can.
It's 5 seconds on the clock. Are you going to fold under the pressure, or are you going to rise to the occasion and make a name for yourself?
What's up, family, and welcome back to the 5 Seconds on the Clock podcast. I am your host, Brandon Williams. Now, I've been gone way too long for my liking, but I have been working on some other projects that have kind of taken up most of my time, but I'm back. This is episode 14, and I'm going to call it the catch-up because I have a lot of catching up to do. The first thing I want to talk about in this episode is Kobe Bryant. I want to remember Kobe because I haven't had a chance to speak on him since his passing. Kobe is one of the main reasons I fell in love with the NBA. Before LeBron came into the league in 2003, I had no favorite team or player really, but there was 3 players I loved watching more than anyone else. AI, Shaq, and Kobe. I love how Shaq and Kobe were dominating out in LA, and AI was just a 6-foot assassin with a crazy handle and couldn't be stopped. If AI wanted to score, he was going to find a way to score. But Kobe was really the MJ of my childhood. Tough shot maker, played with the same intensity on defense as he did on offense, and the high-flying dunks and pretty finishes at the rim. And even as he got older, his game matured, and he was the most unstoppable offensive player in the league for a long period of time, and he would guard the best player on the opposing team every possession. Now, really, I could go on and on about Kobe and the impact he had on me and people all over the world, but I'll end by saying this. Kobe is definitely one of the best players and human beings to ever play basketball. It still doesn't feel real. I can't believe that he, DG, and the others who tragically passed in the crash are actually gone. Kobe, you will forever be remembered and loved by the basketball community and far beyond. Now, I'm going to stay on the NBA track. I want to talk about the All-Star game because All-Star weekend, I think it was successful. Chicago really did their thing. I'm going to talk about the game first, though. I love the Elam ending format. A lot of fans had never heard of it before, but I follow TBT, which simply stands for the basketball tournament, and that's a tournament that's played in the summer. It's a league mostly made up of former collegiate basketball players representing their alma mater. For example, Boeheim's Army is mostly made up of Syracuse players that played under coach Jim Boeheim. And the basketball tournament, or TBT, has been doing the Elam ending for the past few years, so I was familiar with the format and thought it could work in an all-star game, but I think it definitely exceeded the expectations of a lot of fans and people who cover the NBA, because I remember hearing a lot of people who cover basketball and who have been covering the NBA for years, they said they never heard of this format and they weren't sure how it would work, but it definitely worked, and I think everybody will be in favor of this format being used going forward. The third and fourth quarter were super competitive and hella entertaining. That third quarter, it ended in a tie, which meant that the money that the players were playing for the local organizations there in Chicago rolled over to the fourth quarter. In that fourth quarter, we all know how competitive it was. A lot of people were comparing it to Game 7 of the NBA Finals. I think that's a stretch, but it was very competitive. You saw players taking charges. You saw players arguing with the referees. So it was like the intensity, I definitely agree that the intensity was almost playoff-like. And it was a good cause for those organizations in Chicago that each team represented. Plus, you had the kids right there under the basket, so each team could literally see and hear the kids they were playing for. So I like how the NBA set that up this year for All-Star Weekend, and Chicago did great. The tributes throughout the week, really, but especially, Jennifer Hudson before the game, and then Chance the Rapper, he had his halftime performance, and at the conclusion of his performance, he did a tribute to Kobe as well, and it was just great all around. Chicago, I know I said it already, y'all did great All-Star Weekend, and a lot of media people are saying this format saved the All-Star game because in years past here recently, the All-Star game hasn't been competitive really. It's just been a bunch of guys shooting up threes and dunking the ball. But this year, it was a little different. You You still had your dunks. You still had the high flying, fast break dunks, but there weren't as many creative dunks because guys were actually competing. Sure, there would be dunks, but it was mostly like two hand strong dunks. It wasn't anything fancy, no creative, windmill between the legs, 360 dunks, nothing like that this year because it was a competitive game. They had something to play for. They were playing for the kids, and the format made it where each team was playing for something in each quarter. And the new format made it where each team was playing for something every single quarter. So it made every quarter competitive, even though first quarter, Team LeBron dominated, second quarter, Team Giannis dominated. Third and fourth was something to watch. And it was definitely a step in the right direction for the NBA. And I think everybody is in favor of this being the new format going forward. People were also saying that other leagues should use this format or look at what the NBA did and try and improve their All-Star game. Obviously, it will be different for each sport, but as a fan, I would love to see a competitive All-Star game in every league. Would love to see a competitive Pro Bowl again. Those are getting boring now. The MLB All-Star game used to be very important because home field advantage in the World Series went to whichever league won that game. So if there's a way that each league can take a little bit or learn from what the NBA did this past weekend during All-Star weekend, that would be great. Because as fans, when we see a collection of the best players on the same team, that's going to happen once. It only happens once a year. We want to see the best performance from the best players. And I think we got that this weekend with the All-Star game. Now let's switch the focus to the dunk contest. Was Aaron Gordon robbed again? Gordon and Derrick Jones went at it all night, especially in the championship round and the dunk off. Gordon was given a 50 by the judges on 5 of his 6 dunks. 5 of his 6 dunks. But his last dunk, which was a dunk over 7'5" Taco Fall, I know people are saying he didn't completely clear him, yada yada yada. Some people are saying, well, he did. He just hit his hands. I don't care. That dunk earned him a 47 from the judges, which was a point short of the 48 Derrick Jones Jr. got on his last dunk. The trophy could have honestly and probably should have gone to both of those high flyers because they put on a show on Saturday night. But this is the funny thing about it. Dwayne Wade, a Miami Heat legend, gave Gordon a 9 along with two other judges. So it wasn't just D Wade, but that 9 from Wade helped current Heat guard Derrick Jones Jr. win the trophy. It might have been a little funny business going on there. D Wade, you might have to explain yourself, man. But regardless, they put on a show. It was a great dunk contest. Aaron Gordon has maybe 2 or 3 of the best dunks in dunk contest history, and he has no trophy to show for it. Only Dominique Wilkins knows his pain. But from NBA All-Star Weekend to what is the biggest story in sports right now? Of course, it's the Houston Astros cheating scandal. So, as we all know, the Houston Astros were caught stealing signs electronically in the 2017 season, especially in the postseason, which is the year the team won the World Series. And the aftermath of this cheating scandal has been crazy. Former Astros GM Jeff Lunell and former manager A.J. Finch have been suspended 1 year by the MLB, and then they were fired by Astros owner Jim Crane. Also, Alex Cora, who was a part of the Astros staff in 2017, was hired to be the manager of the Boston Red Sox the next season, and the Red Sox went on to win the World Series in 2018. But after the scandal was revealed by former Astros and current Oakland Athletics pitcher Mike Fiers, Cora was let go by the Red Sox this offseason due to his connection with the Astros, and Carlos Beltran, who played for the Astros in 2017, that was his last year, was let go by the New York Mets, who just hired Beltran this offseason before he could even manage one game. He didn't even get to manage a spring training game. But a lot of fans and current players are upset because there was no punishment handed down to the players. Recently, this week in the media, Commissioner Rob Manfred has been saying that in order for them to get the information about this cheating scandal, they agreed with the Players Association, who represents the players, for immunity, which meant that the players wouldn't be suspended, they would be able to get paid, and they would be able to play this year. So that was his reasoning, and I kind of understand where he's coming from as far as that. But I understand where the players are coming from as well. This was really a player-ran operation, and the players get no punishment. And you even had guys like Mike Trout, Cody Bellinger, Aroldis Chapman, and even athletes in other sports like LeBron James have spoken out. Most people, including other players, would like to see the 2017 World Series title stripped from the Astros, but Commissioner Rob Manfred said it was just a hunk of metal. He just called it a piece of metal. And that caused another uproar. Cody Bellinger, once again, he spoke out after that. He said that that trophy is what he and everybody else in his league puts in all that hard work for. And he says the only thing that devalues the trophy is that it's called the Commissioner's Trophy, and it has Rob Manfred's signature on it. I mean, these are strong words coming from players all across the league. It wasn't just Bellinger saying this stuff. I mean, Trevor Bauer called the commissioner a joke. Players are upset and they don't feel like the punishment that was handed down was enough. Now, let me give you my opinion on whether the title should be stripped. I'm usually a guy who is not in favor of stripping titles because I feel like those events already occurred. The players already experienced the happiness and the joy of winning that title, celebrated with their families, celebrated with their teammates, celebrated with the fans, because we all know champions, they get parades. So they had a parade in downtown Houston and already celebrated that. So usually I'm not in favor of that. But let me tell you why I am in this situation. They cheated. Like, they cheated. Usually, like in college, it's a player who wasn't eligible, a player received money, and, that's some bull anyway, because the players in college should be getting some kind of compensation because they are the product on the court, field, etc., whatever. But this championship, in my opinion, isn't valid. They cheated electronically to get an unfair advantage. And a lot of people are saying this is worse than performance enhancing drugs, worse than the steroid era. And I'm not sure I completely agree with that, because the Astros used technology that the opposing teams had no access to, and they used this to gain an unfair advantage. Now, a lot of the Astros players are saying it really didn't make a difference on the outcome. But if you know what pitch is coming, that is a huge advantage. And when you look at the split between how they performed on the road and how they performed at home, you can tell it definitely made a big difference. They had close games, close losses, especially if you look at this. If you look at the series versus the Yankees in the ALCS, they had close losses on the road, but then they would blow the Yankees out when they played at home. It definitely gave them an unfair advantage. I'm not sure I can agree that performance enhancing drugs is worse than what the Astros did, because this was something going on throughout the organization from top to bottom. And the players were a part of it. They were the ones going back in the dugout, the locker room, whatever you want to call it, looking at the screen, relaying the message, and then the players would give the signals. Other people are saying that the Astros should be banned from future postseason play. I agree with that as well. And the reason I say that is because teams are saying they cheated for 3 years. From 2017 to 2019, they were cheating. So I could see them being banned from the postseason for maybe 1 or 2 years. People were saying 3, but I think 2 will be a good number. Ban them from the postseason for the next 2 years. But I'm not sure with that immunity agreement between the Players Association and the commissioner what exactly that said. So he might not be able to do that because he agreed to get this information, but he said players will be able to play. But I think the Astros as an organization need to be banned. Maybe something needs to happen to Jim Crane, a heavier fine for him, because he is the owner, it's his team. Everything that goes on is under his watch. Maybe he should be suspended for a year as well. Something else needs to be done. And I think that might happen because all the players are speaking out, and I know the commissioner is hearing this stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if something else was handed down to the Astros. And quite frankly, they deserve it because what they did was not right. Yeah, of course, stealing signs have been going on since the beginning of time, since baseball started. But to do it electronically and to have all these and to make all that noise in the dugout, hitting the trash cans, beating the top of the dugout, that's not a part of the game. But enough with that. Let's get into college basketball because it's almost time for March Madness. This season has been one of the most unpredictable seasons in recent memory. It's no clear-cut favorite. There are teams ranked at the top that we aren't used to seeing there. Teams will go on a long winning streak and then follow that by losing multiple games in a row. And top teams are losing to unranked opponents or non-Power 5 conference teams or non-power conference. I don't know if it's Power 5 like it is in football, but regardless, you get the point. Let's just look at the top 5. Baylor, number 1. Number 2, Gonzaga. Number 3, Kansas. Number 4, San Diego State. Number 5, Dayton. Shout out to the Flyers. I am from Dayton, so I have to show love to the Flyers. I had to get that in there. But Baylor has had a great season. They've won 23 straight games now, which is a Big 12 record, including a win over Kansas on the road. And those two teams do play again this Saturday, so y'all have to tune into that. That's a top 3 matchup. San Diego State, oh, they're just 26-0 and have already clinched the Mountain West regular season title. That's crazy. You still have a week or two to go in the regular season. They already clinched the regular season title in Mountain West. So shout out to San Diego State, and I can't wait to see them play in the tournament. Dayton is 24-2. They don't have any major wins, but they took Kansas to overtime in the Maui Invitational Final, and maybe they should have won that game. And they had a heartbreaking loss to Colorado at the buzzer. But other than that, they've been taking care of business. They've looked impressive. And Obi Toppin might be the National Player of the Year, especially because of those high-flying dunks that have earned him what seems like a routine spot on the SportsCenter Top 10 plays. Almost every time they play, Obi's on there. And last night, Jalen Crusher, he had a dunk over one of the VCU players, and he was number 4 in the top 10 plays. Yep, number 4. But with that being said, it's nice to see all these teams that we don't usually see at the top. But when it's all said and done, I think the traditional powerhouses and the blue blood programs will be in it at the end. The Dukes, Louisville, Kansas, I think Michigan State or Michigan, who have had up and down seasons, they could potentially make a tournament run. Kentucky, programs like that we're used to hearing will advance late into the tournament in my mind. But because I talked about Dayton, I want to talk about another school here in Dayton that isn't getting as much attention. The Wright State Raiders, one of the best mid-major teams in the country. The Raiders are 23-5 and sit at the number 1 seed in the Horizon League. Just last week, they were the top rebounding team in the country. I'm not sure if they're still there, but I'm sure they're still in the top 5, top 3 in that category. They're a top 5 scoring team in the country, and they have a big 3 in Loudon Love, Bill Wampler, and Cole Gentry. Wright State plays hard and together on both sides of the court. It's definitely a team that can make some noise in the tournament if they can win the Horizon League and get that automatic bid. Here in the upcoming weeks, I will focus largely on college basketball as we approach March Madness, one of the best and most unpredictable times of the year in all of sports. I love when you get towards the end of the college football season, when you have rivalry week, conference championships, and then you have the college football playoff. I really love that time of year. The only thing that rivals that, in my mind, is March Madness. All of the Cinderella stories, all of the upsets, all of the big matchups between those blue blood programs that we don't get to see in the regular season, we get all of that in the tournament. And I'm just so ready for March Madness. But that concludes episode 14. Please provide any feedback and share any topics you think I should cover. Be looking out for a short episode later this week where I share my opinion on the quarterback free agent market in the NFL. It will probably be out Friday, maybe Saturday, but I'm going to shoot for Friday. But thanks for tuning in to the 5 Seconds on the Clock podcast. Like I said, please share feedback and tell me any topics you want me to cover. But once again, thank you for tuning in to the 5 Seconds on the Clock podcast. It's your boy, Brandon Williams. Ya dig?